It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning, the kind that smells faintly of coffee and rain, when Professor Daniel Mitchell sat alone in his office, grading essays. Outside, the campus buzzed with the chatter of students, but inside, only the steady tick of the clock filled the silence. He was known as a fair teacher, respected and calm, but that morning a single essay made his hands pause. The title was neat, the grammar flawless, but something about it felt wrong. He kept seeing a strange phrase scattered across the pages, the Presbyterian beast. It made no sense in context, yet it appeared over and over. Mitchell frowned. The style didn't sound like Melissa Crane, a quiet student who had struggled all semester. A few hours later, Melissa stood nervously in the doorway of his office, clutching her backpack. "Professor Mitchell, I don't understand how I failed. I worked really hard on that essay." Her voice trembled. The professor adjusted his glasses and looked at her carefully. "Melissa," he said, "do you even know what the Presbyterian beast is?" She blinked, confused. "The what?" He sighed. "It's all over your paper. I know you didn't write this." "It's not your voice." The color drained from her face. I used a writing tool to help me," she confessed quietly. "Maybe it added that. Didn't mean to cheat." Mitchell leaned back, disappointment heavy in his tone. "Melissa, this is plagiarism. I could report you. I'm only giving you an F." The words hit her like a hammer. "Please," she whispered. "Isn't there any way to fix it?" He shook his head. "Retake the course next semester. That's all you can do." She nodded, eyes glistening, and left. But as she walked across the rain-damp campus, her thoughts spiraled. She couldn't afford to fail. Her scholarship depended on that grade. One bad mark could cost her everything. That night, she sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the essay on her laptop. "What if I could convince him to give me another chance?" she murmured. It started as a desperate idea, a plea, a request for mercy, but desperation has a way of blurring right and wrong. Over the next few weeks, Melissa began showing up to Mitchell's office more often. She asked more questions, offered coffee, laughed at his dry jokes. He saw it as motivation at first, a student trying to redeem herself, but slowly the lines between teacher and student blurred. He found himself confiding in her about his workload, his exhaustion, his loneliness. One evening, long after the campus lights dimmed, Melissa thanked him for staying late to help her understand a difficult concept. Their conversation lingered, comfortable and soft. Then came a silence neither of them knew how to fill. And in that silence, a boundary broke. For a time, Melissa believed she had found a way out. Her grade improved, her anxiety lifted, and she told herself it was harmless, a mistake that would stay buried. But guilt has a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. Each time she walked into class, she felt his eyes on her and the weight of what she had done pressing against her chest. Weeks later, she sat on her bed staring at a pregnancy test. One pink line, then another. Her heart stopped. She took another, then another, all positive. The world seemed to tilt. Her mind screamed 1,000 questions, but only one mattered. What will I tell him? She tried calling Professor Mitchell, but he didn't answer. She sent messages, emails, waited outside his office. Nothing. Finally, she caught him in the parking lot after class. "Professor, we need to talk," she said, her voice breaking. He looked startled. "Not now, Melissa. Please. I'm pregnant." The color drained from his face. "What?" She met his eyes, tears spilling. "It's yours." He stepped back, panic flashing across his features. "You can't be sure," he muttered. "You have to. Take care of it." She stared in disbelief. "You're telling me to get rid of it?" He rubbed his forehead. "Melissa, you don't understand. My wife's expecting too. If she finds out, my career is over." For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavier, as if the sky itself wept for them. Finally, she whispered, "You used me." He didn't answer. She turned and walked away, her footsteps vanishing in the storm. The next day, Professor Mitchell's phone rang. "Laura?" Her voice was cold. "Daniel," she said. "Who is Melissa Crane?" His stomach dropped. "Why do you ask?" "'Cause she called me. She said she's pregnant." The line went silent before she hung up. By the end of the week, the university was buzzing with rumors. The dean called Mitchell into his office. An investigation began. Emails were reviewed, witnesses questioned, his colleagues stopped meeting his gaze in the hallways. When the truth came out, the university suspended him for misconduct. His wife filed for divorce. His name was erased from the list of award-winning professors. Melissa's world collapsed, too. Students whispered behind her back. Social media spread her name like wildfire. Some called her a liar. Others called her a fool. She left campus quietly at the end of the semester, her dreams scattered like paper in the wind. For months, she lived alone, struggling with guilt and fear. But one morning, feeling the small flutter of life inside her, she decided she would not hide anymore. She would keep the baby. Time passed, the noise faded. And then, unexpectedly, she received a message from Laura Mitchell, the professor's ex-wife. "I'd like to meet," it read. Melissa hesitated, but agreed. When they met in a quiet cafe, Melissa expected anger, maybe hatred. Instead, Laura spoke softly. "You made a mistake," she said, "but so did he. I can't undo what happened, but I can choose how to live with it." That conversation changed everything. Over time, compassion replaced bitterness. When Melissa gave birth months later, Laura was there. She held the baby first, tears falling onto the tiny blanket. "Every child deserves love," she whispered. In an act few could comprehend, she offered to adopt the baby and raise it alongside her own child. Melissa, overwhelmed by her kindness, agreed. It was the hardest decision of her life, and the most selfless. Years rolled by. The scandal faded into memory, retold only as a cautionary story whispered among new students. Professor Mitchell moved away after losing his job, lived quietly, haunted by regret, the weight of his choices heavy on every passing day. One evening, at a university charity event, long after his resignation, he saw Melissa again. She stood across the room, composed and confident, holding a little girl's hand. The child had bright eyes and a curious smile, his eyes, unmistakably. Their gazes met for a moment. No words were exchanged, none were needed. In that brief connection, Mitchell saw everything the innocence he had destroyed, the life that had gone on without him, and the quiet grace of forgiveness he would never fully deserve. The years continued to move forward, as they always do. Melissa built a new life. She finished her education elsewhere, became a counselor, and dedicated her work to helping students who felt trapped by pressure or temptation. Laura Mitchell raised both children with love and honesty, teaching them that mistakes can destroy, but forgiveness can rebuild. And Daniel Mitchell spent the rest of his life teaching no one but himself. Every morning he would walk by a small park where children played, sometimes catching sight of a little girl who looked painfully familiar. He would smile faintly, whispering, "I'm sorry," before walking away. This story isn't about scandal. It's about choices. It's about the moments when desperation whispers that breaking the rules will make things easier. It's about how one decision, a single step off the right path, can send ripples through every life it touches. Professor Mitchell thought he could bend the rules without consequence. Melissa thought she could trade integrity for success. Both learned that shortcuts never lead where you think they will. In life, the hardest road is often the right one. It demands honesty when lying feels safer, courage when fear is easier, and integrity when the world tempts you to compromise. The wrong path might glitter with promise, but it always ends in shadow. For everyone listening to this story now, remember this. The choices you make when no one is watching will one day define who you are when everyone is. You can rebuild from failure. You can start over from mistakes. But you cannot escape the truth forever,